crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as hoes. Yeah, but maybe.
This is Talk Sports Extra Time, and I'm delighted to say that it is that time of the week where we have our first visit from Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. Good to be with you in the studio, old MG.
You're already complaining it's too warm in here.
Well,
I mean, it's the middle of winter already. Have you not seen the temperature outside?
Well, I have seen the temperature outside, but, in a insulated limo, you don't feel the cold outside. So
that's true.
It was when I got outside, I thought it's quite nippy, but in here it's too hot.
Because you're not even wearing a jumper.
No, of course I'm not wearing a jumper. Only old men wear jumpers. I don't wear jumpers. I see that the fashion now is for cardigans. I see people younger than me walking around wearing cardigans.
Women have been wearing cardigans for years.
I wouldn't wear a cardigan if it was the last item of clothing on earth. I don't know how men can wear cardigans. No. I was brought up to believe that men wore jumpers and girls wore cardigans.
That's true. That's exactly right. So what you're saying, you see a lot of men wearing cardigans?
Yeah, I see loads of guys wearing cardigans these days. It's become kind of fashionable. But I don't wear jumpers either because, quite frankly, a jumper...
You can't find any to fit you, presumably.
No, don't get abusive. A jumper is... it's like walking around with a signal on your head saying, I'm middle-aged and I wear a jumper, I sit in front of a fire with my slippers on, I smoke a pipe.
Well, you've obviously got some kind of bizarre kind of reason to say something like that. Actually, while we're on the subject of dress code, what's the dress code for the weekend when I'm coming with you to this ghastly football match?
It's not a ghastly football match. It's Crystal Palace. We're guests of the board of directors. We're going to be in Speroni's, which is their top Italian restaurant there for favoured guests. That's you and I. Mr. Paulson is the marketing director there, and we're going with him. And
I was going to wear a suit.
A suit and tie, please.
A tie as well?
Yes, please, because we'll be sitting in the director's box as well.
I don't think I've seen a tie for ages. I'll have to fish one out.
If you could, and if not, I can lend you one. I've got about 100 silk ties.
I wouldn't wear one of yours.
Well, you know...
have you got anything that's not stained with soot?
I was about to say, hopefully you wouldn't wear one of mine, but if the worst comes to worst, I'll have to bring one in my pocket and give it to you just so you are presentable. I like the debate and the argument about the head injury.
Yes.
We've missed one thing, Mike. That you had a guest on, a medical guy, who explained that one of these little blood vessels under the skull can just fracture, and all of a sudden you've got blood filling up the cranial cavity, and that it could lead to death and all that. I mean, that is so severe that, in my view, AVB, Andre Villas-Boas has made... Andre Villas-Boas has made such a bad decision, a bad call, and such an error of judgment. I think he should be banned in the same way as a manager gets banned for misbehaving on the touchline. Because what I'm saying is, banning a guy for just shouting and screaming at the fourth official on the touchline is one thing, and that's just disciplinary. But this should be punitive for the fact that when he was on that touchline, he made a call about a medical incident over which he had no expert knowledge whatsoever.
I'm not even sure he did make a call. He kind of just let it happen. He just let the guy run back onto the pitch.
No, he made the call. He said, don't bring Brad Friedel on. I'm keeping my... And one of the reasons is because this guy's known more as a sort of goalkeeper sweeper, not just a goalkeeper, and he's a vital part of organising the defence. So he did it for very selfish reasons, that is to protect his scoreline at Goodison Park. And in my view, that guy now, I'm talking about Villas-Boas, I think he should be put in front of some sort of disciplinary committee to explain what his thinking was.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think he should certainly be given some kind of lesson in how to deal with medical problems.
I think he should be banned for 10 games from the touchline.
He was still laughing at the end of it, saying, oh, yeah, I've spoken to Hugo, he's OK, he doesn't remember what happened. Well, if he doesn't remember what happened, that's a pretty good sign that there's something wrong, isn't it?
I totally agree. And by the way, it's no good saying, oh, well, it looked worse in slow motion afterwards. I mean, it did look worse in slow motion, but we all know that there are monitors in the tunnel, and he must have been able to have got access to have seen the slow motion, and the actual impact between Lukaku's knee and Lloris's head resulted in Lukaku spending the rest of the game with his knee bandaged in ice.
Yeah, and this is a guy who doesn't get injured at all. I mean, incredible, absolutely amazing. I think you're probably going a bit far by saying he should be banned from the touchline.
I think he should be banned for like a good long time, maybe 12 matches.
I think he should be given some kind of education course on what it actually means to get a head injury in a football match.
But I think he should be reminded that what he did was very serious. I mean, look, I'm not suggesting for 1 1 minute it's as serious as this, but there are two distinct crimes when it comes to somebody dying, murder and manslaughter. I'm not suggesting for a moment that...
well, why are you saying it then? If you're not suggesting it.
No. I'm not saying that Andrew Villas-Boas is in any way like that, but what I'm saying is this was an uncaring decision, not
reckless,
a deliberate one. Reckless. I think that's a good one. Reckless pursuit of a decision. And in my view, he's got to be reminded that he must never make a reckless decision like that again, and I would ban him, seriously, if only to make the gesture to the football world that you can't have managers who are not qualified doctors making decisions on a situation which quite... I mean, we hear every day, don't we? We hear every day about... I mean, for instance, the other day, Mike, I was after a tin of beans in my cupboard, right? So I go and open the door on the right-hand side, and then I get distracted. The phone rings or something. I turn away, and then I turn back, and bang! I nutted the open door.
Oh, yeah.
Right on the point.
That can be very painful.
Very painful.
I'm surprised you haven't got a mark.
Well, it's under my hair, you see. And bang, like that. And then, for a few minutes, I saw stars and all that kind of stuff. Now... You've heard about things that happen like this where people collapse hours later.
Yeah.
You've heard about the tragic situations when people get involved in scuffles in the street, they get knocked over, they bang their head on the pavement, and they die a few hours later.
I studied that in law, eggshell skull cases, they call them sometimes.
Is that right? Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, well, how did we know this guy didn't have an eggshell skull?
Yeah. Exactly. You just don't know.
It could have been the same. Anyway, we
But that's exactly why the referee should be in charge of any situation like that. He should be told in no uncertain terms, if somebody has been concussed, if they've been unconscious for any period of time, he immediately makes the decision by himself.
J'agree.
You agree?
Yeah.
D'accord, actually, is what you should say.
D'accord.
Not Jacques. That's enough French. You could do some more of that with David Ginola.
Anyway,
listen.
We were going to talk about the Sven-Goran Eriksson situation.
Yeah, because first of all, whenever you say Sven-Goran Eriksson, I always slightly cringe. It doesn't sound right.
Sven-Goran Eriksson.
It's Sven-Goran Eriksson.
No, it's Sven-Goran. No.
Goran, like HJ.
Listen, Mike, if you understand the Scandinavian language like I do, and I've been to
I don't
Scandinavia
know anything about
a lot,
it, just like you.
It's Sven-Goran Eriksson. Okay?
Yeah. Right. Now, were you at the FA at the same time as he was?
No, Terry Venables was England manager when I was there.
When Terry Venables was there, was it still kind of a mad hot pot of sexual activity? Because it sounds to me that with the Faria Alam stuff and with Nancy and with Ulrika Johnson, I'm surprised the guy had any time to do anything other than what he was doing with them.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I went to the FA a lot when Sven was there because David Davis was my big mate. I mean, I worked with David in the mid-90s when it all started, and for many years afterwards, I was always popped into the FA to see David and
they must have been
advice.
Delighted.
Oh, you give him advice on things and that kind of stuff. And I used to see Faria. But no, what you said earlier about every organisation has sexual shenanigans going on within it, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. I mean, how many newspapers have you and I worked at together? And how many affairs have we seen happening, between...
Well, yeah, but I mean, newspapers is a kind of a bit of a special case in a way, isn't it? Because people work together in very close quarters, they go away on jobs together, they work into the night together.
Yeah, but hang on.
There's no reason to do that at the FA.
Hang on. You're mad, aren't you? You're joking. Don't you think the England team travels a lot?
Yeah, well, why do they have to take a lot of women with them?
Well, because they do. Because there's a huge support network now for the FA.
A support network, is that what they call it?
Yeah, well, whatever you want to call it. But the point is, certainly in my day, the most attractive people within the FA were obviously the footballers who were playing. And, I mean...
Well, you mean not the women?
Eh?
Not the women?
What do you mean?
Well, you said the most attractive people in the FA.
The people who...
Faria Lam looks better than most of the footballers.
Yeah. What I'm saying is the footballers, of course, are the stars. And I swear you not, when we used to have Christmas dues and all that kind of stuff, a lot of the girls just used to say, let's go and find Teddy Sheringham. We know he's in a club in London somewhere and all this kind of stuff. I don't know why Teddy was their favourite, but he always was.
Right.
And that's not belittling FA people or FA women
so
and all that kind of stuff.
So were you ever propositioned then in a way which was unfortunate during one of these parties?
Mike, come on, I'm a gentleman. I'm not going to answer that question, am I?
We're going to talk about this a lot more because Porky Parry's lifting the lid on the sex secrets at the FA coming up next.
Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Freeview Channel 723.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. I'm in the company, I'm delighted to say, Mr. Mike Porky Parry, and we've been talking about the FA and the sexual shenanigans that went on there and maybe, presumably, they don't still go on, but there'd seem to be this period of time when Sven was around that there was nothing else going on. When that whole Faria Lam story came out, that she may, in fact, have been sleeping with several of the members of the FA, it was an extraordinary state of affairs. Really.
It was two that we know, wasn't it? Sven and Mark Palios, who was the chief exec. But when I used to go and see David Davis, the FA had moved to Soho Square, and it'd become a much more glamorous and glitzy organisation. When I started with the FA, they were still in Lancaster Gate, and actually,
which is far away from all that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was quaint. It was a number of what we'd call townhouses now, knocked together, and offices made of it, and there were little rabbit warrens of offices, honestly, and
sort of hushed tones.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Because I got the impression that when Sven was there, it was like party time. You sort of open the door to a room, and there'd be something terrible going on. And you'd have to shut the door again.
Well, as I say, what happened was the Adam Crozier moved in, and his first decision was to take it away from Lancaster Gate because he felt it looked like when it was founded, 1863, all over again. And he said when he went to Germany and he saw the headquarters of the German FA in Frankfurt, he thought, wow, we've got to change. So he rented this huge building in Soho Square, which I think the FA is still paying on, even though they've moved out to Wembley.
They've moved out to Wembley. Well, Wembley's even further out now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it's very glamorous to say I work at Wembley Stadium. It's the most famous football stadium in the world.
No,
and yes, it is. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Of course it
is.
is.
Maracana is
Don't be
famous.
ridiculous,
Everybody wants to play at the Maracana.
Only because Brazil's coming up as the World Cup. Wembley's the most famous stadium in the world. Anyway, I digress. Point is, when I used to go up to Soho Square to see David, he had this huge glass-fronted office. And you just could not take your eyes off Faria Lam.
No.
I mean, she was by a mile, the best-looking woman in Soho Square, never mind the building the FA worked in. She, honestly, talk about exotic, long black hair, and, she had a fantastic figure. She had, charm and beauty.
How did she dress?
Oh, beautifully. I mean, elegant and just fantastic. And I think she brought David in a cup of tea once when I was there, and I was just riveted to, this stunning woman.
Did she not bring one for you?
She might have done. I don't know. Maybe
you were too busy being mesmerised.
Yeah, exactly. I'd lost concentration.
You sit there with your tongue hanging out. She was probably quite embarrassed.
I mean, she was a stunning-looking girl, woman, whatever. And of course, I said to David, he said, that's Faria, she's a lovely girl. I said, she certainly is, and I can't talk. So it came as no shock to me to realise that
He didn't say you should stay away from her or anything like that.
No.
You shouldn't try and approach her.
No, I didn't have any sort of reputation as being a pest to women or anything like that. Are you mad?
Just a pest, generally.
Just a pest, generally. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? And
by the way, why have you turned up again? Why are you stalking Faria Lam?
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, when I read later after the affair with Sven broke, it made absolute sense that Sven seemed to. I mean, somebody had told me Sven seemed to spend a lot of time in David's office. You know what I mean? Right. And to get to David's office, you had to walk through the room where Faria. And her desk was the last desk before David's, and he used to park himself on her desk. He used to sit on her desk and chat to her, hello, and
the most frightening thing that I've read in all of these stories that have come out of his book was from Ulrika Johnson, who of course not only said that making love to him was like trying to put together one of those Billy bookcases from IKEA. Yeah. But that he used to like to talk dirty to her in English.
In English.
I can't imagine anything worse.
Yeah, but in every other aspect, they spoke to each other in Swedish. It was only the dirty words that I like in English. I mean,
it's just ridiculous.
But I tell
There's a piece in the Mail today saying he's as sexy by Jan Moore. He's as sexy as a Corby trouser press. So what did they all see in Sven?
Well, in the Telegraph today, Henry Winter goes into Eriksson's warning for Hodgson and all this kind of stuff about the real messages behind the book. And the one that really hit me in the face, I mean, I'm talking about bang, whack, right in the face.
Just like that cupboard.
Like that cupboard I was telling you about, was he said to both Ulrika and to Nancy, by the way, she's a lovely woman, Nancy.
He was scared of her, wasn't he?
I think he was, because she was so fiery. But I saw her a couple of times at England Internationals. Lovely woman. I mean, a real contender for the FMP, the first Mrs. Barry, because, fantastic.
You could never afford a woman like that.
Well, no, I doubt it very much indeed. But the point of my story is, he complained to both the women that the England job was boring because they only had one game a month at most, usually only 10 games a year, so some months there wasn't even a game. And that's a major problem for the FA. It always has been. Why pay a man £6 million a year? Because they put his pay up.
Yeah.
When Sven started the old round of, media gossip, which all managers do to try and make themselves more attractive to their employers or to get a pay rise and stop them going to another club, when all that started, They just gave him another £1 million a year. Yeah. And £6 million a year for a job which Sven said was boring because there wasn't enough to do. It's crazy
And the idea
money.
that he's now come out today and said, England have got no chance in Brazil. It's like, well, thanks, Sven. What's it got to do with you, actually? We're not really that interested.
No, it's absolutely right. But, the whole Sven thing, I think, is a fantastic analysis, because I'm a bit of a social science student. No, social leper, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? A social science student is the attitude that Scandinavian men have to sex compared to Englishmen. Englishmen, Britishmen can either be rather unkind about it, rather crude about it, or they can be lovey-dovey about it. Yeah. Sven's just completely factual about it. I mean, if I'm reading it right, and I was reading a bit of it right, apparently, allegedly, he went to bed with Ulrika Johnson on the day he met her.
Yeah.
And
it does happen,
Well, I know, but he's...
Not everyone spends years and years, stalking people and trying to get them to go out with them.
But he's... Sorry, what are you saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that, that's another thing that people look at.
Hang on. What do you mean?
Some men go out with women and, on the same time that they've gone out with them for dinner, they end up having sex with them.
But what's the stalking thing? Who do you know goes around stalking women? Because I don't know anybody goes around stalking women.
I just don't know how you get women these days. So I'm just suggesting to you that, when you spend time with people like you say, going into Ferrier Lamb's office and hanging around, hoping that,
No, it wasn't me hanging around.
All the other FA people might have been out for the night, and she might have fancied dinner with you.
I wasn't sitting on a desk ogling her or anything like that.
It sounds like you were ogling her.
No, it wasn't. I don't get down to that sort of level. Look, the point I'm making is this. His attitude as a social science observer was very... completely pragmatic. Yeah, completely matter of fact, and all that kind of stuff. He's holding himself open to all sorts of criticism, isn't he? And as you quite rightly say, she says, he was as dull as an IKEA flat pack.
Well, what was she doing with him then? I mean, the reason they always ask these questions in the papers, don't they?
It's so interesting.
What do women see in this carrot-headed, multi-millionaire?
It's so interesting.
Because he had a few million quid in the bank, surely.
But also, on the Nancy thing, it was well known, Mike, and this again is allegedly well known, that although Nancy was well aware that Sven was having other relationships with other women and at times was making himself scarce, going to his house in Portugal or his place in Scandinavia, they still had a good physical life, apparently. Yeah. It was well known at the within the football circles that all this was going on.
Well, some women are quite accepting of that, aren't they? Particularly in the football world, where they know that their husband, stroke partner, might actually have other women on the side. They prefer the solidity of the home life.
Yeah, but again, this £6 million a year man, he talks as casually about my house in Portugal, my house in Sweden, my 2 houses in London, one in Regent's Park, one in wherever it was, Belgravia, something like that.
Although he lost a fortune on one of them, didn't he?
Well, he lost a fortune altogether, because if you read the excerpts from the book this week, some dapper little chap came along and said, I'm a great investor, let me do it for you, and Sven is suddenly minus 10 million quid. Yeah. Now, I've made a few investments in my life, of which I do not want to dwell upon,
You've done very well for yourself, considering, haven't you?
Not recently. Not
since the crash.
not since I decided that I no longer had the face for a radio.
You've stopped using that expensive petrol now, haven't you? Using the cheap stuff.
No, I decided I no longer have the face for radio and must get into television. Yeah. But unfortunately...
That didn't go well.
Well, I couldn't find a television station that wanted me, so I thought I'd better pay to set one up.
I don't think the HD revolution has helped you, to be honest. I mean, there's nothing worse than seeing somebody on HD TV who could do with a bit more makeup. But here's something that will cheer you up. Kevin has tweeted in, says, I agree totally with Mike Parry regarding AVB. My question is, could AVB be charged by the FA? Maybe you've started something.
Well, I don't think it should be charged with the FA because I'm saying it wasn't deliberate, but I think it should be made, an issue of, and say, look, we're banning you for 10 games from the touchline because we've got to make it clear to every other manager in this country and around the world that you simply can't act as God on a clinical decision about a player when he's had a bash in the head like that.
Now, let's talk about a man that knows a bit about head injuries. Terry Butcher.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you're claiming that he's doing something somehow traitorous by staying in Scotland. We're hearing tonight on TalkSport News that he may be taking the Hibs job. He's agreed terms, moving from Caledonian Thistle up in the north.
Get that out, can you?
Inverness. I've forgotten the word for a second. Sorry. You're having that effect on me today. Anyways, we're going to move into Hibs, which is a much better team, I suppose you might say, in a much nicer city, Edinburgh. But you're complaining because you didn't want to go to Middlesbrough.
Well, I think he's become jockeyfied, if you see what I mean.
I'm not sure that's a term you can say. causing offence.
No. I've got lots of great friends in Scotland. They'll know exactly what I mean. You know, I didn't know what the opposite north of the border to anglicised was. Okay, Has he been Scotticised?
Scotified, maybe?
Or Scotified or Scotticised, because he seems to love the life up there. He's got a fantastic
I'm not surprised. It's a very good life up there.
Somewhere in Inverness, he says he said his drive to work from his house to the training ground every morning is like a nature trail.
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful and all that kind of stuff. And you know, the funny thing is, David Jones, who I'm delighted to say got his first win this season with Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend, won 5-2 at home, stunning victory. Finally, yeah. He said to me exactly the same about being in Wales.
Yeah.
When he was Cardiff manager, he lived in the Vale of Glamorgan.
Beautiful there.
He said, I can't think of a more beautiful location.
Well, see, I've been very fortunate. I worked both in Cardiff and in Glasgow. And it's true that if you're getting well paid and you're in a place like that, I mean, life is very good because you don't have to pay very much money for anything.
No, I mean, you know, for £1 million spread in Scotland would cost £15 million in Surrey, wouldn't it?
Castle
or Cheshire.
for £1 million in Scotland.
Yeah, Castle £1 million. And you're absolutely right.
So why would he want to go to Middlesbrough?
Well, this is the point, you see, because the rumour is in the football world he was offered the job as Middlesbrough manager because Tony Mowbray still hasn't been replaced, has he?
Who, funnily enough, used to be Hibs manager.
He used to be Hibs manager, absolutely right. And so, you know, you've only got, I mean, have you been to Middlesbrough's ground, Mike?
I've never been to Middlesbrough. I don't ever want to go to Middlesbrough.
No, well, that's a bit unkind.
It's not unkind.
No, it's full of nice people, Middlesbrough.
I'm sure it is, but I don't like the look of it.
It's full of very nice people, and
it looks a bit stark for my taste.
But when you go to the ground, it's in a sort of a little well, and behind it is the whole of the petrochemical industry of the northeast of England. It's not an attractive view.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I've seen pictures of it. It doesn't look very nice. Whereas Edinburgh is beautiful. I mean, it's an ancient city. It's gorgeous.
I did a trial in Middlesbrough once, and it was a fantastic trial at the Crown Court.
I thought you meant for a football team.
No. That was many years ago. And what happened was this doctor, who was an eminent surgeon, in fact, he was chair of the BMA Ethical Committee.
Oh, yeah.
He got done for poisoning his wife so he could marry his mistress. Yeah, he was chairman of the Ethical Committee.
Somehow that wasn't in the ethical code.
It wasn't in the ethical code, but what he did was he started giving his wife these tablets. She became anemic and she died, the poor thing. And he was on trial with his girlfriend. She got off and he went down. He got 17 years. So I just to let you know that. That's my memories of Middlesbrough.
Yeah, well, listen, but I completely understand why Terry Butcher doesn't want to move to Middlesbrough. But there was a funny story in the paper today, actually, about a guy who and his wife. He has a weird reaction to Chanel No. 5.
Unbelievable. And guess what his name is?
Mr. Parry.
Yes.
It is.
His name's Glyn Parry.
Isn't there a famous Glyn Parry? Wasn't there a Glyn Parry that was a footballer or something like that?
I don't know any Parry's more famous than
me,
me,
even more bizarre, his wife's called Carrie.
Yeah, Carrie Parry.
Carrie Parry.
And
what sort of a name is that?
She puts on the Chanel No. 5 and he faints every time. Well, why does she put it on then? Perhaps she doesn't like him.
Well, maybe she likes the fact that he faints.
Exactly.
Have you ever taken any kind of strange reaction to a woman's perfume?
No, not really.
What's your favourite perfume on a woman?
My favourite perfume on a woman? Oh, I don't know. I don't know the names of perfumes.
You don't know?
Well, do you?
Yeah, I know plenty.
Oh, go on then.
Well, I rather like Chanel No. 5. I rather like Chanel
hang
Beige,
on.
actually.
This story's about Chanel No. 5.
I rather like Chanel Beige.
Yeah, do you know any other names?
I like Prada.
From Chanel?
Prada's very good.
Prada's the name of a fashion house.
Yeah, they also they make perfume.
Oh, yeah. Well, you name me a perfume that hasn't got a fashion house then. Go on. Come on.
Number 7.
Chanel.
No, not Chanel No. 7.
Yes, it is.
No, No. 7 is a boot brand.
No, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. You're trying to make out that I'm lacking in social graces
towards
the female form.
When was the last time you bought a bottle of perfume then?
Well, you see, when I buy perfume for a woman, because I
normally send somebody out for that, don't you?
Exactly. I send a woman out for it.
I used to find that amazing about you, that you would buy presents for people, but you never actually choose them yourself.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all. I think if you want to get it right, what's the point of me staggering into Harrods or somewhere and going up to the perfume counter and saying, hello, I'd like a bottle of perfume, please? You might as well...
Well, you're supposed to know the woman you're buying it for and you know what she likes. Or know one that would suit her.
What do you want me to do? Rattle through her handbag and find out what's in her handbag? I mean, I'm not that sort of person.
Well, you're doing it anyway.
I'm not that sort of person, mate. Unless I'm looking for a credit card.
Well, you're supposed to recognise the scent that she wears.
The scent that she wears. How do I know what it is? For all I know, it could be something she's made up from a tin of baked beans.
Yeah, well, those are some of those women that I've seen you with in the past. Mr. Parry, a delight as ever. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. Mike Parry will be back later on in the week. Don't forget you can catch us on the iTunes podcast as well. We'll send out some links on Twitter a little bit later on.